All right, welcome back to The Belonging Place, where we talk about community and belonging and connection. And I'm really excited for my guest today, Leavitt, and we have been friends for
15 years.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, talk a little bit about our meet cute. How long does it go back? And
So we met about 15 years ago. I had just moved to Arizona, and we just found a group of friends, and so we were friends that way. I remember going cliff diving and jumping with you. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
No,
this is why I always ask people, because I have a terrible memory, and I'm like, tell me how we met.
Yeah, so we did that, and then we've just kind of stayed in each other's lives, and we've been friends. I mean, you came to my wedding 10-ish years ago. Anyways, we've stayed in each other's lives, and it's just through common connections and friends and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and specifically, I guess, in my friendship with you, because I'm enough years maybe ahead, we'll just say, that I have been able to be sort of a witness of your going from being sort of a, I don't know, you were a little bit older than a teenager, but like I would say,
I was
like
a young adult.
young adult. There we go.
I
Being
was
like a
very
young adult, kind of figuring out, like we all are at that age, like what do I want to be when I grow up? I mean, I didn't get my life together, as people would say, until I was 30. So,
Yeah.
But I had my life sort of together career wise when we sort of came together. And you were in the discovery. So I've been able to watch you as a friend, like really blossom.
Go through that awkward adult stage.
Well, I think we all do a little do-si-do. We all do a little. I don't think there's many people that do linear life or linear success. Even if it seems like when you go backwards, you're like, you can weave it all together. Because I certainly can like go back to when I became a therapist, and everybody in my life can be like, duh. From the backside.
Right.
But on the front side, when I was living it, and I was certainly being like, what should I be when I grow up? And everybody was just like, I don't know. Nobody had a clue. There was nobody telling me.
Yep.
You were similar. It seemed like you were like, what should I do with the talents that I have? And I remember you specifically being like, I don't know what I want to do. And brainstorming with you and sitting with you and reflecting back to you. And you had just started specifically photography. You were just, and I was like, I think I said, you recall, I was like, why don't you just do that?
Yeah. No, it was that, but it was also like, I also had to find my niche in that photography. And so for a while, I was shooting everything and everything.
And like when you say that, you literally mean that, because I remember that.
I was doing headshots. I was doing newborns, which I don't do. I was doing weddings. You
came on tour with us.
I came out on tour. Like I was shooting sports.
Tour, like let me just clarify, because there's lots of tours.
There are lots of tours.
A humanitarian tour.
Yes. Like I've done like photography for me is like just documentation, and I love documenting, but it was for me finding the correct documentation of what I was supposed to document. Anyways, that was a whole. We did it, and it took a little while, but at some point where I was like really in between was if I was a sports photographer or if I was going to be a concert and entertainment photographer. And I really had to choose kind of between the two. And for the longest time, I was gung-ho that I was going to go to the 2016 Olympics in Rio. Like I thought for sure I was going to go and I was going to be a sports photographer. And that fizzled out very quickly because I just realized that my love of shooting concerts and theater and all of that was way more important to me, and I was much better at it than I was at sports. And so that's how I ended up in the entertainment industry.
But I want to go back. When you were first, like, I think people can relate to this. There were multiple avenues of like interests that you have, and photography wasn't like at the time, at least if I can remember, it wasn't necessarily even the front runner. It was like most of us, we were kind of like, well, I could go down this path, or I could go down this path, and you can tell me a little bit more, because I love an unconventional path, but from what I remember, you didn't really go to photography school or like vocation school. Okay, because I love to tell this part of people's stories because there's so many people that feel like I'm not anti-college or vocational school at all. I mean, I have college 1, college 2 under my belt, but I have worked as a therapist with young adults and teens for so long that are on alternate paths that I'm like a big fan of, like, do you, however it makes sense. And so when people come in and are pretty like successful in the world, that would say, but did it
a whole
a
other.
whole other way. I kind of like to highlight. So maybe go back and talk to me because, like, yes, you became a very niche, very specific, very wanted. You're very busy therapist. It's been awesome. I'm not therapist, photographer, entertainment photographer.
Yeah.
I have loved watching you. I mean, we could brag and brag and brag about like pictures of yours that have gone to places and
Yeah.
who you have like
Yep. Done it all.
and we're talking about becoming, so we're not talking about your arrival, but
Right. The whole process.
back when you were first
Oof.
dipping your toe in and you didn't have a degree and you didn't necessarily have all the connections.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that journey and maybe if there's people that are not necessarily specific with photography, but in any area that they kind of decide that they want to put their feet in and like sort of walk a path. What kept you on that path? What helped you to stay? What helped you? I mean, there was a lot of
no's.
that.
There was a lot of no's.
Yeah.
So I guess at the beginning, I had support from my family, but at the same time, my family was kind of like, no, you really should go do this. Like, I was really being pushed into the education, like, go get a degree and that kind of stuff. And I just was like, that's not for me. I was also even being pushed into, or not in push, but like encouraged to go serve like a mission. And I was like, that's not for me either. And so it was just one of those things where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Very messy, young adulthood. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Amen
And
to that.
I got into photography and it made me happy. And there was just something that happened every single time that I got to spend time with my camera. And I loved watching changes and I loved being able to document everything that happened. But again, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I was trying to learn every little bit to figure out where I fit in. And so it's kind of funny. I was looking for my belonging place. Where did I belong in this industry?
Yeah.
And I have found that when I am looking for something in a community that I'm not aware of, I go join that community to learn everything about it. So again, I learned almost everything that I could about newborns, tried my hand at it. It was not for me. Tried my hand at weddings and I was like, this is fun. I don't like this. Like, it's a whole thing that I was not a fan of. And each time I did it, I found mentors and people to teach me so I could figure out if this is what I wanted to do or not wanted to do. And then so like, it was really just really messy for a very long time where I just tried my hand at all of these different things and I was never bad at them, but I was never good enough that I could really push it. And I also didn't feel like I was satisfied. I never walked away
wasn't
going,
for you.
I did it. Like, it was like, yeah, I did it. Cool. Moved on, whatever. But I never felt satisfied walking away. And I remember being asked to shoot a very, very small concert for some friends that were opening up for Winona Judd. And I was like, sure, I have no idea what I was doing. And the adrenaline and the thrill and just everything that came, like, it lit me up from my toes to the like ends of my hair. Like, it just lit me. And it was like just like a normal high, I guess. And I loved that. And then shortly thereafter, Imagine Dragons saw some of my photos and they were babies. I want to be very clear. They were babies. Like, Radioactive had just hit the internet. And so they asked if I would come and take some photos. They were opening up their tour at the Marquee in Tempe, Arizona. And I said, sure. And I went and I shot that show. And I have gotten career shots out of that still live with me today that people have tried to like do and nobody's been able to touch them. Anyways, it lit something in me. And then my career has gone on from there. But really, truly, shooting that very first show is what kind of just sparked everything. But really, truly, it's because, and I had no idea what I was doing in the entertainment space. but I very, very similarly to what I did with weddings and newborns and all of that other stuff, I went and I found people. And so I remember being in Vegas specifically, and I watched a photographer in the pit. And the pit is it's the barricade in front of the stage and the audience. And so it's just literally a barricade. And so I was in the pit and I watched this other photographer, and I watched how he didn't chase shots like what I was doing. I watched just how he handled things, how he was always in the right space, how he had certain lenses ready to go. And I went, oh, who are you? So I just watched him very, very carefully. And then I went and I researched looking for him because I was like, I know I'm going to find your photos somewhere. Found him, and then for 2 years harassed him very lovingly. And I just would message him on Facebook, and I would message him on Instagram. And he didn't ignore me, but he also didn't give me the time of day. Like, he was like, yeah, good job, keep going. And I was like, no, this is what I want to do. And so I really was, anyway, at one point I happened to be in Vegas and he was there, and I begged for a meeting. I begged for it. And he was like, okay, come meet me right before this and whatnot. So I went and I met with him, and I showed him my portfolio, and he went, oh, you're actually pretty good. Like, you've actually, like, you've been working for the last 2 years. I can see the growth. Okay. Like, and he was giving me some pointers about like, fix this, don't fix this. Like, here's where you need to watch for this. This is how you need to handle that. His name is Eric Kabik, and he has turned from a really good mentor to just now a really good friend of mine, who's still a mentor to this day that I still consult with on various things. Anyway, in short, I've actually now worked for him. He's called me up when he's had stuff that he couldn't do. And we've just been really good friends, but he walked me through my career and how to help me succeed. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to point out a few things, because I think that people often don't start things from the very beginning because they feel like they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to people that are listening, you don't always have to know what to do. You do have to have resilience, and you do have to have tenacity, and you do have to have what I kind of call like a Teflon demeanor, meaning lots of no's and lots of critical feedback and lots of like missed opportunities or whatever, right?
Right.
You do have to sort of ask for what you want. You do
Yep.
have to say, like, I'm better than I am. You have to show up professionally and be like, I know what I'm doing, even if you don't know behind the scenes what you're doing. The craziest thing about most careers is that when you walk into the room and you say you know what you're doing, unless people really have any reason to question, they don't. And then you do whatever you need to do. In your case, take enough photos that there's some that are good, right? And eventually you take less photos that are good, more are good. But part of me wants to go back and just say, you were curious. You asked questions. You didn't come into the room being like, I've got it, right? You were very humble. You were very you took a long time to sort of figure out where it is that you felt like it was your place, your calling, whatever people call it, where you're aligned, right? Yeah. And then once you found that, you still hadn't arrived, even though you had done a lot of work, and you found a mentor, and but I just want to say, you also just did it anyway. You were doing it. Anyway,
there's a thing, and we call it in the industry, fake it till you make it. And there were many, many times that I walked into places that I did not have credentials for, that I should not have been, but because I had the look and I had the confidence, and you can't tell me no. I ended up in places I shouldn't have.
And I know this.
With access that I shouldn't have. And, but yeah, no, there's also just a lot of, there was mess in all of that. And I would spend hours analyzing my photos to figure out where I went wrong, what I needed to do. And then I would analyze other photographers to go, okay, this is how they succeeded in getting that shot. This is how I need to set my camera up. This is how I need to do this. So there was a lot of learning to figure it out. But I also there is some luck to this. It didn't just it's not all luck. There was definitely hard work and whatnot, but also I was ready to walk in those doors when I had the chance. Sometimes I really wasn't, but I was like, nobody else else knows that I'm not. So
well, part of me wants to talk about this because this is specific to you, Leavitt, and because I know you well enough that I feel like I can say this. I mean, unless you disagree, which I'm open to. Part of it was that you sort of like what you didn't know didn't stop you from like asking or building relationships like this guy you just said. Now that you're friends, he's your mentor, he's hired you, and it like you've arrived. But like back then, you were just like, hey, can you give me the time of day? But like you were tenacious about it, right?
Yeah.
Like this is one of your traits that I love about you. You're just like gonna go after it. You're gonna go after it with your partner, with your animals, with your passion, with your whatever, with your friendships. So one thing that I want to peel back behind the scenes because you have some, I don't know what they're called, like resident jobs. I mean, you sort of just like you're a revolving door, you're coming back. I'm not gonna name anybody.
Yeah.
Personally, you can name whoever you want. I don't know what I can or can't.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna steer clear of that.
You're good.
But what I'm gonna say is if we peel back before you're now like flying in and taking pictures, I believe that behind that, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that. I'm gonna give you my hypothesis, and then you tell me how close I am.
Okay.
I believe in some of those because there's a group that you film and shoot for that we're mutual friends with, and I think behind most of those regular kind of high end jobs were relationships.
Yeah.
Like building relationships, which we both really believe in strongly and follow, is the key to like life, but also the key to financial and I think business success.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about your thoughts about that? Like, did most of those jobs start like you kind of getting to know certain people, or were they really business? Or I don't know. Maybe I.
So yes and no. So I started. My career is based off of networking.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's all about networking, which is all about relationships.
Yes. Exclamation point.
Very big deal. And it's people want to be treated like they're important, that they have value, and that they're not something to get over. Like that's how everybody wants to feel, in my opinion. And so yes, and it comes back to bite me in the butt. I'll be completely honest about it. But I build these personal relationships with my clients.
Yes.
And to me, like it's like, yeah, we're friends. These are people that I'm going to invite to different things monumental in my life. And at some point you do have to put on the business hat. And that's really hard to differentiate the friend versus business. But no, it is about creating friendships and relationships and giving them value to what they need. And yes, they come to me specifically for things, but I have also been there when clients have lost family members. I've been around when people are going through hard times, when just kind of whatever. I've been around and I've gotten to witness and see a lot of it. And I guess for me, some of it also comes down to the fact that they know that I won't talk.
Yeah, you're a vault. We share that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want the underbelly of this.
Yeah.
So, because I've been a witness to this with you in your life, is that when you have a business that's a creative business, I want to say photography, I want to say film, I want to say really anything, voice lessons, therapy, unless you're in an office, right?
Yeah.
Like, cutting hair, it doesn't matter. If you have friends that feel like they are like, let's create a win-win. We can give you exposure if you do this. Or they feel like they can maybe pay you less because we're friends, or you spend more time on that project than what would normally be paid because they don't value your time, because it's not like you're not on the clock for them.
Right.
They're just going to pay you for the photos or whatever, but they're not going to pay you for your time. These are just some of the things. I remember one particular artist when we were talking, and again, no names, that you were kind of really struggling with, because friends with them, but also like, I'm flipping what you just said about the artist. You as a person or anybody wants to be seen, wants to be valued, wants to be paid for like their
Yep.
time and
Yep.
their work, right? And I call this, because I'm a therapist, boundaries.
Yep.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I feel like you have grown exponentially in your business boundaries and
Ooh.
value, but maybe you don't feel that way. I don't know. That was a big sigh. Okay.
It's there. Because you have to. And again, all it takes, at least for me, is that I got burned once for me to learn this is what we're doing. You can't do that anymore.
Got it.
So I still create those friendships. I still create, but like it took getting burned to put contracts in place. Don't ask me why I went through a quarter of my career without contracts, because that's dumb. But like,
But you did have a lot of trust that like people would treat you the way that you should be treated.
right,
I mean, I'm not saying that's good. I'm glad you have contracts.
right.
But
No, but for the longest time, I didn't have a reason to not.
yeah, why would you burn me?
Right, like there's nothing, you wouldn't hurt me. And then you get burned and you go, oh, never mind. Never mind.
You would. Yeah.
You
You would
do
take
this.
advantage of my skill and not give me
And not
money or whatever.
compensate, not do what we need to do about it. And yeah, so because of every time that I got burned, better and different boundaries got put into place. And so that's kind of also like the hard yuck of doing this, is that nobody else is there to advocate for you. It is only you. And so if you don't start advocating, if you don't put your boundaries in place, if you don't have the contracts, if you don't have the verbiage in your contracts that you want, then yeah, everybody can walk all over you. I had one client who I literally couldn't ever leave the venue to go eat, and they wouldn't bring food in for me. Now I have a rider in there that says, if I can't leave the building, you have to feed me. Like, and it's tiny little things that you've learned over time to make sure that you have things. But also, contracts are very similar to like boundaries, I guess, for me.
Totally.
It's two ways. Like, this protects you and it also protects me. Because if I don't live up to what we've said, then yeah, you can come yell at me. But if you don't live up to what you put in there, then
Mutual.
Then it's mutual. Then
Yeah.
I don't have to fulfill my end of it. Anyways, so yeah, so it really is one of those, over time you've learned that unfortunately, not everybody is going to have your back and take care of you.
Yeah. And I want to say, because we're talking about on my podcast, like belonging in general, I want to say everything you just said also applies to friendships.
Very much so.
And relationships, romantic or partnerships. I think, I'm just a huge fan of boundaries, whether you call it a contract or whether you call it a win-win or whether you call it mutual. I think everybody does better when they sort of know what the expectation is and they can meet it or not meet it, right? And
Yep.
when you don't meet it, you can have real conversations about like what happened. And so this is all just really, really, really like good information to have. One of the things that I guess I want to say and break down when I'm looking at your story kind of to general people is, I think there's a fear that people have that if they get too strict or too business. I know this is me. I'm a person who does a lot for free, has been a lot for free, give a lot of information, give a lot of my value. And have people in my life who have said, you could charge for that, and have been like, sure. And I'm learning, and I have been learning, like most people, that I probably should. There is some value in like the stuff that I've learned. I think that I think there's people out there that are just afraid to like hold those boundaries or make those contracts because they're afraid they're going to lose opportunities. And I don't know if you want to speak to that. I think that is maybe true. And those are worth losing potentially for the opportunity to stay solvent and to be getting paid what you need to get paid, and to build a clientele, whatever that is that you do, that other people know, I don't know if you want to share, not necessarily the money, but was there a point in your career when you finally started asking what you were actually worth?
Yeah.
And how did that change from before to after?
Oh, yeah, there was definitely a moment where I it was a really big aha moment for me when I realized that I was getting paid, but it barely covered what I needed to do in order to it like I
Deliver to do your deliverables.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was barely it was yeah, a lot of the time I was in the hole and I was like, so then how am I supposed to buy new equipment, make sure that I'm running where I need to be? And at that point I also was working a full-time job, so then I couldn't it was just this kind of huge mess. But at one point I finally did get to a place where photography did get there, but it's because I had to raise my rates. It's because I had to put contracts in place. And here's what I really found is that, and this is kind of something that I stick with, not everybody is going to be your client for forever. And at some point you outgrow them
Yeah.
or they outgrow you.
Absolutely.
And it's okay. And yeah, sometimes that ending sucks when it just doesn't work anymore. Um, but I have found that the clients who, when I give my rate and don't bat an eyelash, that's my client.
Totally.
And that's not to say that I'm not willing to work with people on budgets, because there have definitely been some projects that I really wanted to work on, regardless of the fact that they couldn't pay me what I wanted to be paid. But I loved everything else about the project.
But that's your choice because other people were paying you what you're worth. This is the difference
Right.
that I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
So-
you can say
Yeah.
yes to them, right?
Yeah, because I had all of this other stuff that I was able to make it work. But yeah, I guess for me, it really was the clients who value me, and who are willing to pay my rate. I go all out for them. Not to say that I don't for others, but like, you get my full attention.
Totally.
You get all of my, and then on top of that, the clients that treat me really well on top. So like, yes, they pay my rate, but then they make sure that I get tagged in photos. They make sure that people know who took those photos. They make sure that I have meals. They make sure that it's easy for me to come in and do my job. Those are the clients that I'm like, you could ask me to go to the moon. And I'd be like, how? I don't know how, but I will figure it out.
This is the thing about value is that when people feel valued, they will do just about anything to, and I mean this both in and outside of money, right?
Yeah.
Like I have often said to people, I think the marker of a really good leader is that they can help their people that are underneath them feel valued, and sometimes it's money.
Yeah.
This is my thing. And sometimes it's money because most leaders think this is the only way I can show people I value them. Don't get me wrong, leaders, people want money. But
Right.
are there ways that if you don't have more money to give them, there are certainly ways
Absolutely.
to show people that they are of
Absolutely.
value, ways that will keep them far longer than the amount of money that you would have raised, right?
Yeah.
This is a prime example of both getting paid your rate, but also like increasing their obvious value for you, which
Yeah.
synergizes that like relationship, right? You're
You
like,
know, the thing that I love, this sounds bad. I love getting paid to do my job. Okay. We've established that.
yes.
What I love more than anything is, so you also have to know you have to know what people's love languages are in a relationship, regardless of what your relationship is with that
Right.
person, you have to know kind of how they receive and whatnot love. A big thing for me is words of affirmation. I'm a sucker. I like being
We are
told.
words of affirmation girls. Yeah.
I'm a words of affirmation girl. I love it. And when somebody says, "Oh, you're just so good," or "Oh, I love this photo. Thank you so much." Or I even had somebody else who came up to me one time and they were like, "How did you get this photo? Because I know where you were standing and I have no idea how you got it. And it's the most amazing thing that I've seen." And I was like, "Thank you." So like, did they add to my financial? No, but they
Filled the bucket.
They filled
Ugh.
my bucket. And so when that person comes back and says, "Hey, is there any way that you can get photos of my crew?" I go, "Yeah, give me 15 minutes. I don't have the right gear today, but I'll figure out how to get the gear and make it work." Like I'm willing to do things because they have filled my bucket. They have added value to me. And then again, also when clients share my name and say, "Yeah, this is who did it," when we love working with her.
Yeah.
It's not just financial.
Okay, people, listen up. Both on the like people who are working and the people who are paying. Like I just can't think of any industry that isn't relationship based good boundaries, good pay, but also like where value is. I want to go back to a comment that you kind of made. About kind of doing it on your own and like holding the boundaries. I happen to know you have a wonderful husband who probably is whispering earlier in your career, was probably whispering in your ear, you have more value than you're putting. You're running yourself ragged. Like, I also know you have some fur kids
Yeah.
that sort of, I would say, because I'm a therapist, were your and are your like self-care and really hold you to like a good, I don't know, mental health, physical health space. Can you talk to me a little bit about um, how that came to be? And did you always know that you loved animals? And like, how did they hold a role in your space? Yeah, I want to just dive
Oh,
into two of
man.
your loves that like
Yeah.
maybe people know about you, maybe they don't.
So, let's see here. So yeah, so I have a really incredible husband.
We love you, Jeremy.
We love you. He is okay. I adore that man. He is the one who goes, "Why are you letting them talk to you like that? You would never allow this. So why are you allowing that?" And I'm like, "You're right. I no." um and then on top of that, he is my sounding board. He lets me go off on everything. He is also I like to say that he's my co-pilot. So it is very often that he says, "Off you go, have fun, I've got this." And he's not my anchor because he doesn't keep me tethered down. I mean, he does in certain ways. He keeps me grounded, which everybody needs. But like, he really truly goes, "Just fly."
He just blows wind in your sails. Gosh, do I love that about him. Yeah.
Fly as high as you want. Do all of the things, and I'm here to support this.
Yeah. I'll be here when you come home.
Yeah. There have been many times where I don't want to leave because it's hard to get on a plane and to pack the bag. And I will walk out and he will have my camera bag packed for me.
Oh, be like a Jeremy. That's what I want to say.
Like, I love that. And it also makes me feel incredibly guilty because I'm like, I can do this. And he's like, "I know you can."
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Yeah.
My personal favorite, it still makes me laugh. Jeremy doesn't get to travel with me all the time, but he certainly does from time to time. And there will be holidays and whatnot that I'm like, "You're just going to come." My favorite is that I will be wrapping up meeting with a client and I will be talking with them, and he will come over because I wear a holster on my hips that has my cameras and all of my stuff. And he will walk over and take one of my cameras and start unloading, putting things away. He'll walk over, he'll come grab my other camera. So I'm finishing up and having this conversation, and he's just quietly assisting, helping, showing up, that kind of stuff. So he really is. He also helps me do the taxes and helps me maintain all of the stuff and the business. And he's also in the background often going, "Have you submitted this stuff?" And I'm like, "No, not yet." And he's like, "Can you please get on that?" Because like
he's the executive function sometimes.
He is. So he's great. And he also never batted an eyelash when we first started dating. And I told him what I did. And I immediately we started dating and I left 2 weeks later. We got engaged and I left 4 days later. Like, I have just always been leaving in our relationship. And he's like, "Cool, keep me in the loop. Love you. Let me know how things go." And that is really special and unique because I don't know. That's really hard to find.
Totally.
Specifically in this industry. And I remember trying to figure out like how to, when I got into a relationship with him, and I'd been in a relationship while I was touring and traveling and all of those kind of things, and they always just fell apart because it just never worked. And he never batted an eyelash. There was one time that he did tell me that I couldn't take a show, and I will admit, so I got called in to shoot some huge country artist on our wedding day, and I was like, "Yeah, I could take that." And he was like, "What?"
Love it.
He was like, "What are you gonna do? Show up in the pit in your wedding dress?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, like this doesn't work."
Sometimes you have to say no.
Sometimes you have to say no. Like, this is, You can't.
I think the listeners will say that's okay. That's an okay for him to ask.
It was.
Just be here on our wedding.
Can you not work on our wedding? Anyways, but really truly, he doesn't tell me no. He's the one that goes, I'll let you figure it out when you.
Which you should. You should. And you can consult and you can
we do.
make decisions together. But I kind of love that he's he loves to blow wind in your sails.
He does. And he likes to talk me up, and I get giddy. So words of affirmation is not his love language, but he knows that that's mine. And so it makes me giddy when he tells people, oh yeah, this is what my wife does. And she's bad A and she does all of this. And people go, what? And he goes, uh-huh. And he just,
I made her.
Yeah. So it's fun that way. But then my animals, because I love them. So I have a horse. Well, I had one. Unfortunately, he passed away pretty recently. But he was my buddy for about 10 years. And what I loved about him is that there was just an unspoken connection with a giant animal who didn't speak. And you had to have a lot of trust in each other. Like a lot of trust in each other to know that he had to trust that I was taking care of him. And I had to trust that he was going to take care of me. And I loved that. And he was there for a lot of my big moments.
Milestones, yeah.
I can't even count how many business deals I closed on his back because people would call me and I would take that phone call while I was writing and I would just go and I would close the deal while on his back.
Your wedding pictures have Kona in there?
Yeah.
Tell me how you came to Kona. Like how?
Oh.
Yeah.
So it was a New Year's resolution. So I have a love-hate relationship with New Year's resolutions. Because I feel like I always failed. And so one year, it was specifically 2013. I was like, I'm going to do something that I've always wanted to do that I never got to do.
I love this, by the way.
And so that was to take writing lessons. And so I researched in the area and I found a trainer who is now a very good and dear friend of mine. And I reached out and I was like, I'd like to start writing lessons. This is what I'd like to do. I was not a teenager or young at that point. So I was like, I don't know. Anyways, she took me on. She taught me how to ride. And then she ended up having to move and she was not going to take Kona, my horse, with her. And she was like, you need to buy him. And I was like, what?
Because you called Kona your horse before you actually bought Kona. It was just like, this is my horse. And I remember that. And I remember being like, they're like in love. Meaning I loved watching you with him. Okay, so
I'll
she's
send
like,
you a photo, but
you have to buy him. Okay, so this, for people who don't know about horses or know about things, they maybe don't know that this is like akin to like you should buy a grand piano. Maybe if people don't know that either, these are expensive things.
Is not cheap.
These are not cheap.
No,
this is not a cheap purchase, right?
No, this
and
is
not just cheap. The animal, but everything that comes with the animal. This is like I always wanted a horse when I was young, and so my parents obviously said no because we did not have the money and I would cry and cry and cry. And one day my mom just had to be real. She just said, I don't want to keep breaking your heart because every year I would ask that for my birthday. And she's like, we will never be able to afford a horse. Yeah. So like, if you want a horse, it will have to be when you're an adult and whatever. And she had to kind of do the thing that you sometimes have to do with kids. And she had to say, this is why, right? And she had to break it down for me. It's not just that the horse. It's like we live in the city. We don't have a place, and we don't have the food. And you go to school all the day, and and it was finally, even though my heart was broken, a realization that like this isn't for me. So she says this, and you say,
So okay. So she told me that her name is Brooke. So Brooke told me, she was like, you need to buy this horse.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So then I took it to my husband, and I said, we need to buy Kona. And he went, okay. And I said, it's cheaper than therapy.
There you go.
Go every week.
There you go.
And he was like, okay.
Kona already had a place that he was boarded and where he was fed. And
I had to move a couple of things. Like I had to find, like we had to do some stuff and whatever. And I kind of priced it all out. And I was like, okay, let's do this. We were also in the midst of like paying off all of our debt. And so everybody looked at me like I had two heads.
That's a relatable story, by the way. In the midst of paying off all of our debt. Yeah, people can relate to that.
We bought a horse because that was a smart thing. But it was like, if we didn't do it now, it would have never, ever happened. And anyways, so.
And it wasn't any horse. It was your horse.
It was my boy. Where we had this deep connection and this love. And, I mean, even the day of my wedding, I went and I rode, which everybody was like, "You're gonna die," and I was like, "I'm fine." But anyways, like it was just the connection to there. I love getting my hands dirty, but I really love getting my hands dirty when I'm working with a giant animal. Like there's just something about it of just brushing them and anyways, but no, like, yeah, there's a ton of stuff that goes into it where you have to pay for the board, you have to pay for feed, you have to pay for supplements, you have to pay for their feet to get done every month, and whatnot. My husband, so at first it was affordable and it was fine. And then towards the end, unfortunately, it was very expensive. Yeah. And anyways, but I refused to not give him the full life. I couldn't give him everything, but I was like, you will want for nothing. You will have everything that you need and whatnot.
And I want to say, and then he gave you what?
He was where I could go when days got hard. Because I'm not going to say he didn't talk back. He certainly talked back. Course. And we called him Sassafras and Sour Patch Kid because he really truly was super sweet sometimes and a super grump the next. But I could always go to him and just pour out my heart to him. And he would be there and he would listen and he would take it. And it was just this unspeakable bond and connection. And I felt like maybe things weren't solved, but I could go on. We had a previous dog and he unfortunately ended up passing away because he had cancer. And I remember going to see Kona the next day. And Kona didn't heal my heart because I'm the only one that can do that. But he certainly was like, I'm here. I have you. I've got you. Let's go. And it's just, again, it's this unspeakable bond. I don't even really know how to describe it, but there's an unspeakable bond of when a giant animal who could kill you chooses to pull you in for a hug, who chooses to give you a kiss on the face, who chooses
to be emotionally like grounding. Yeah, and I mean, you know this, but a lot of people may not know this. In the world of like equine therapy, it's a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you jokingly said like this will save me on therapy, but like I think some of the best therapy there is animal therapy, but particularly with horses, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of our babies.
Yes.
And then we have another baby.
We have another one. So something that is unique about me is that I also have a service dog.
Yeah.
And I adore him. His name is Bear. We'll show a photo of him.
We'll show a photo. Bear's actually here in the studio at your feet, right?
He's right here by my feet, happily taking a nap. Huh. Oh, did you just wake up? Yeah. Bear is a 4-year-old standard poodle. We've had him since he was a tiny little fluff ball. I'll send you guys a bunch of photos and you can share them.
Perfect.
And he's my buddy. He is trained to the nines. He's very, very, very well trained. And I have a legit disability, so I'm not like just faking this or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
Bear helps out in a variety of different ways. He picks stuff up off the floor for me, so I'm not constantly bending over and getting lightheaded. That's kind of a big thing for me. He finds people and exits for me, which is really big, so that if I am in somewhere and I don't know where I'm going, he can help find. It's specifically targeted people, but he knows where to find people. And then he also does a lot of behavioral interruptions. And so if I'm doing a repetitive behavior, he will come in and interrupt that. And that's really helpful for me because he is able to, I have somebody who watches my back and who's watching out for me and is paying attention to things because I'm so go, go, go all the time that I do not take the time to take care of myself.
Yeah. This is my favorite thing about Bear for You, actually. Like, as a friend, like, I love that you have a service animal, but
Yeah.
like, I love that you tend to be a person who's just like give, 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 give. I mean, lots of my friends, producers, this
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
and like, Bear is always going to be like,
My producer.
how are you doing? And are you eating? And are you healthy? And are you safe? And are you
Yeah.
grounded? And are you connected? And are you energized? And like a million things, right? You said earlier to me, and I love this. I guess I want to say, you said that Bear gives you access.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that to things that maybe you wouldn't?
Yeah. He makes it so that I can travel, and I can travel fully without having to bring somebody else to watch my back.
A support person, you said?
Yeah, a human. We call them
A human.
We call them service humans.
Service humans. Okay. Yes.
At least that's the joke in the service dog community. And so he's able to keep me afloat and whatnot, because I can't always. If I had my way, my husband would travel with me 24/7. It's just not possible.
Yeah, for many reasons.
For a variety of things. And so Bear also gives him a lot of stress relief, because he's like, she's got the dog. The dog watches her.
Yeah.
I don't have to stress about it.
Yeah.
He still does. But I don't have to worry if she's okay, because I know that he's watching, because he's making sure that she's doing the things. And also, while I suck at taking care of myself, I can't neglect him. And so in fold of making sure that I take care of him, I'm also making sure that I have to take care of myself. So it's just this kind of symbiotic, beautiful relationship. But at the end of the day, it is the most helpful thing to know that somebody is watching my back, and somebody who's paying attention to things and will tell me when things aren't working and I need to make adjustments.
Yeah, in the world of people that maybe their only interaction with like a service animal is like when they're maybe on a plane and like the dog comes down the aisle, or maybe I'm trying to even think.
You see them in the grocery store.
Okay, grocery store. So there's but I would say most people, for an actual service animal, they have very limited interaction with them.
Yeah.
And I think some people's limited interaction is actually quite negative, because they are trying to pet the dog or they're trying to do whatever. And there's certain things you can and can't do with service animals. So I don't want to talk about that per se. But for people who don't really have much experience and maybe are confusing it with security animals or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
What would you say? I don't know. I just wanted to open up your thoughts about having a trained service animal and the importance it is that people understand, that come across that, like what that gives for people, and you know that we're not just trying to have a dog in a place where we live, or like you know, bring our pet with us on the plane. Like I guess would love for you to just kind of like share for people, like you've already shared a little bit, but yeah.
So I love him and he is very well trained, but taking him with me is like taking a toddler everywhere.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It just is. And he's great, but I still have to, it's still taking a toddler. But the bottom line is that Bear is there to do a job. And he's there to do his thing and whatnot. And again, we don't really want to dive into it too deep. And if people have questions, then they can come talk to me. But like, if he's distracted because other people are trying to pet him or talk to him or anything like that, he's not able to do his job. Yeah. And so that's really important, is that he's able to stay on task. Something that I really want to make sure that we get very clear: service dogs are absolutely dogs. At the end of the day, they are not robots. He gets plenty of downtime. He gets to run. He acts like an idiot. He's not perfect, but he does his job very, very well. And yeah, but it's important to like just know that a dog is there to do a job for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's just leave the dog alone and leave the person alone. As a handler, I personally love it when people will come up and talk to me about him.
Yeah.
And they have questions. That doesn't faze me. I am always happy to talk about it. Yeah. Not every handler is. And it also depends on my mood for that day. I'll be honest. But I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy to share about it. But you'll see a variety of people out with their service animals and whatnot. And it's just important to let that dog do its job.
Yeah, amen. I literally think you could not have said it better. And I want to add, it doesn't matter why a person has a service dog. It's
No.
like you wouldn't go up and ask people,
Why they
do
have a
you
wheelchair?
yeah, anything. So I guess just be
Be
kind,
kind.
give
Yeah.
space,
Yep.
be curious
Yeah.
to the right person. Like, I'm grateful that you have Bear as one of your friends, right?
Yeah.
And as a therapist, like I'm a big fan of people who really need them
Yeah.
and do it the right way, like do it, and that people that don't really like, don't.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to
Yeah.
say about that. Just
Yeah.
like if you have the need, there's a need. And if you don't, there's other ways that you can manage. But hopefully, I guess I wanted people to have a little bit more, and we'll show pictures of Bear so you can see how cute Bear is, but have people sort of have a little bit more understanding of like what's going on in the life of somebody, and that their dog is like, they're doing their job. They're on. So like, you're not going to see the service animal when they're on, they're off. So like, just let them be just like you would anybody else who's doing their job on the plane with their earphones in or whatever. Okay, I have just a couple more questions.
Okay.
We started this podcast with me saying, I've known you since you were a young adult,
Uh-huh.
and you're an adult.
I am. I got there somehow.
What would you say about yourself for some things? Is there one thing, or is there some things that you feel like you've really grown since we initially met?
Oh, yeah. I finally started standing up for myself. Like
Tell me more.
Again, it takes you getting hurt or burned to learn that this isn't okay. And so I'm not perfect at it. But I don't allow certain behaviors anymore. And I've also gotten to the point where I will, instead of allowing the behavior and leaving, I now go, this behavior is not okay. And then I have to sort through it. You have to do all of the stuff. But then I go back and I go, we got to fix this because this isn't okay.
Yeah.
So like, let's have a conversation. It's a very hard conversation that none of us want to have, but we need to have the conversation and we need to find a way to make this right for both parties on the end. So that's growth there. And then also just a lot of trial and error in life and figuring out what works and what doesn't. I've gone through waves and rides of figuring out all of the things, and we just somehow, I don't know, make it work. And you just don't stop.
Yeah, I want to reflect back to you some of the things that I've seen. So I think maybe there's a little less credit than you deserve when you were like, I don't know, I was wandering in the wilderness. You were a pretty phenomenal like young adult. As I think you came from a really good home. You had some really good like things going for you.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, like most of us, you just don't know what's going on or what's going to be in the future. So, I personally, I don't know if you felt this from me, but I always felt like you, there was more for you in what you just said, in your ability to like advocate for yourself and to like see your value, and where you were in a room that you had as much value as anybody else in the room. Because when we first started as friends, I sort of felt like there was a less than.
Yeah.
Like there are other people that are more important that have done things. I feel like that's one of my favorite things that I'm sure could be emotional about, of watching you be on certain stages and do certain things that I don't know that little Leavitt ever thought that you would be at. And I just couldn't be more proud of you that you're like, ooh. I just, I guess I would say your self-love, your ability to just like be like, I'm enough. These are my words. These are not your words. In the rooms and the spaces that I am, that has a huge impact on the people around you and how they treat you and how they, I always wanted to see where you are right now, and you're still becoming, right? Where you took command of like you and where your strength is. And I just want to reflect back to that. I know we're all figuring it out, right? But in the 15 years, you've come a long way. And you said something earlier in this podcast. You're like, I know that Kona couldn't heal it because only I could heal it. Even that statement that like you have your agency, you have your ability to maintain yourself. I just love that about you.
Yeah, I had to learn at some point. This is a catch-22. I had to learn at some point that other people weren't going to do the work for me.
Amen. Say it louder for the back.
Right? Other people aren't going to do it. And so I became really, really independent. That also bites you in the butt.
Yes. Hyper independence is.
Yeah, because I learned that other people were going to let me down. People weren't going to show up. People weren't going to invest the way that I needed them to. And so then I started relying on myself. And so again, that's a catch-20. It's a very big catch-22. And it's a place where I am currently in my life where I'm being told. So for those, we'll just make this public. For those that don't know, while we're filming this, I'm pregnant. I'm like 7 months pregnant, something like that. And yeah, it's exciting and nerve-wracking and all of the feelings.
Literally.
And it's becoming very apparent to me that I'm going to have to ask for help.
Yeah. Hyper independence doesn't like that.
No.
The receiving end.
No. And we're in therapy about this. We're talking about it. But the reality of it is there's still a lot that I can do. And there's a lot that only I can do. Like, that's the reality of it. But I also need to humble myself and get over it.
Well, can I reframe and say, open yourself up and to your community. I mean, this is what I believe about the belonging place. If you create relationships and you're good at creating relationships, then when it's your turn to receive, people are there. You might have to ask because if you're hyper independent, people just never know that they need to lean in. So you might actually, it's a little awkward, but you might have to actually ask. But people, what I have noticed, both myself personally and in my career, is that people are waiting for you to ask for them to give, because as a really strong independent person, they're usually complaining to you or leaning on you. And so my hope that's out of my control is that you will very much see that people are more than happy and probably relieved and might even tell you, like, I've been waiting for years for me to be able to help you. You have, I don't know your story and how that's going to be, but this is what I've seen happen over and over and over.
Something else on that same, something that I really noticed just even a few months ago, is that I have a bigger support behind me than I thought than I did.
That's great.
Like there have been things where, because I've continued to work my entire pregnancy and I'm continuing to do that, they are there to support and cheer me on. And I thought that they were just there in this superficial capacity. And it turns out that they are there way deeper than I thought they were. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so that's been a humbling thing for me to get to. And again, but they've also made it and they're not asking the question, what do you need? They're going, can I do blank?
Here's what I have to offer. When can I do it?
And that has been huge for me, because I go, I don't need anything right now. But knowing that they have offered XYZ PDQ, I go, okay, so if I do need something, I know that this is what they are capable of doing and willing to do.
Yeah.
But yes, I had to get independent and I had to grow, because that is the only way to have done this. And I'm also learning to rely on others. Yeah. It's a whole
thing. This is why I very much believe in, like, you and your self-worth. And of course I have a strong belief in my self-worth is how I'm known and whose I'm known. And I have a very faith-based, like, to my core. Everyone has different ones, but I believe you have to have your anchor and then you have to have your community. Like, I do not think one goes without the other. Right. And I think it's a dance. I'm not one of those people who's like, you have a life-work balance. I think there's a dance. Like, sometimes you have more life and sometimes you have more work, and this is how it goes, right? No matter what you're doing. You mentioned baby. This is my second to last question that I have for you. As two people who sort of stepped on paths similarly that were like, this is my path that I didn't necessarily know that I was going to have. Yours happens to have a partner in it and mine doesn't. But like, here's what we're going to do. And we think we want something else, but like, that's not turning out.
Yep.
And you sort of start walking down your path and you pivot in your life and you're like, I'm going to have my dog baby and my horse baby and my husband.
Yep.
And my job.
Yep. So.
And then you have surprise of the century.
Talk about the surprise.
I want to this is, I guess, the thing that I think people can relate to, Leavitt. Change is hard. Changes and transitions are hard.
Yeah.
They're hard for people that have regular mental health. They're especially hard for people who I don't know that anyone has regular mental health, but people who are neurospicy or people who are struggling, changes and transitions are really hard. And then things that people think that should just be the best thing ever, that maybe you do think is the best thing ever, but also it's a huge change. I call it complicated grief. There's like, I grieve not having a kid but now it's like a lot. I don't want to put any words in your mouth. I'm just going to ask you the question. The journey of like pivot 1, and now you're in pivot 2. How has that been, and what has helped you, or maybe anything you're willing to share in that journey?
We're still in the thick of it. So I don't want to do too much on it, but this was an unexpected pregnancy. It's very much wanted, but still very unexpected.
Of course.
It's a total like, no idea this was coming. And so this has been I had a friend. Okay, so this kind of goes back to the belonging place.
Yeah.
So when I have to do something that's new, I go find that community.
Yeah.
A huge blessing in my life is that I got brought into a group of friends early last year. And they have really, really stepped up since I finally told them, because we didn't tell anybody I was pregnant for a very long time. They really stepped up. And one of the women that I was chatting with, she made a comment that birth is kind of a shadow box to your life. So this is an opportunity to grow and to work through things that you probably chose not to ever acknowledge. And that has, at least as I've like done the parallels, I'm like, oh, I see that. But we're still working on things. We're growing, we're learning. And I'm not sure how the future is going to work out. I'm not sure how it's all going to go, because nobody knows.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that I'm finding my place. Not necessarily again, but I'm finding my new place.
Totally.
And I'm finding my, just kind of how new things are going to go.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of changes that are coming,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And some of those will be good and some of those will be hard, like anybody. I think it's very relatable to people to be walking along a path and you think you've grieved the thing that's hard, and then boom, there's another thing, right? You have lost your Dracona. That was unexpected. I think even when we know people are going to die and things are going to die, it's just like, it doesn't make it easier. And then even though this is a great and exciting thing, a huge change, right? I just want to say again to people that like, you can honor wherever you are. I mean, the biggest thing I want to talk about in the belonging place is people's becoming.
Yeah.
Which often people are in their messy middle, no matter how old they are in their life. Yeah. And that this is the most relatable thing to people, not in your arrival, not in having the baby, not in like at the peak of your career, but like when we're doing the 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, do-si-do, when we're trying to figure out how to hold gratitude and grief, when we're trying to hold the most exciting thing with the most change that I will ever have probably in my life and that will impact my future, right? This is okay. I guess I just want to say you're great right where you are.
Well, and on top of that, I immediately after we found out that I was pregnant, I went and I found my team that is going to be here for when we deliver this baby. And I was really, really intentional behind that. And I can honestly say that I wouldn't have had as healthy of a pregnancy if I didn't have these this group of people behind me who they didn't always do anything, but a lot of the time they held the space.
Please.
They let me be mad when I was like not okay with things. And then on top of that, we also, once we figured out that things were just not going well for me mentally, we dove hardcore into therapy. Like, I was in it twice a week. We were doing the things. We were active, like, and things have gotten better. We have still put a lot of stuff in place for the last little bit of my pregnancy, but then also postpartum. We've done all of those things. It is messy.
Yeah.
It's very messy. And something that I will share is that I don't find that a lot of people talk about how hard pregnancy is.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Nobody talks about it. I had a conversation with my therapist and she was like, yeah, this isn't anything like the movies. And I was like, no, where's the field? Where's the music? We're not frolicking. This is not beautiful. I don't know what we're doing.
I think even, and I would say TMI, but this is not TMI because half the world is going through this. I would even say down to the very basics of even like periods.
Yeah.
Women walk around like badasses all the time.
Yeah.
That they're just like having their period and like nobody's talking about it and they're managing their lives and their businesses and their whatever. I think there are definitely parts of women, one of them is pregnancy, that have gotten sort of masked over. It's just an expectation that you just do the thing.
Yeah.
Bodies are amazing. They do their thing. Like, what? I literally, as someone who would have loved to have birthed a child and that door has closed, and I cannot be more in awe of what people do. Like, I have a sister right now who's pregnant and she always wanted to be pregnant. And she was like, I hate being pregnant. She's like, I think I'm going to love being a mom and having a kid. But she's like, I shouldn't say publicly that she hates it. She's very uncomfortable and she's surprised because she thought she'd be one of those moms that was just like, I love it.
Yeah.
And like, you don't know. How would you know?
You have no idea until you've done something that you've never done.
If you know a pregnant person, give them some validation.
Yeah.
Give them some, I don't know, like seek to understand what they want. Give them a Diet Coke. I don't know. Whatever you know that you don't ask them.
Right.
Ask their partner maybe and just show up. Right. They're
show
exhausted. Up. They're running a marathon every day.
And it's things that like you just it's that, but also it's holding space, but also being aware that pregnancy isn't unilateral for everybody.
Oh gosh.
And like I have had a hard time, and my therapist finally told me to knock it off. But I've had a hard time going, I hate the fact that I'm struggling being pregnant when I know that my friends over here are grieving the fact that they won't have children or that they're struggling with infertility. Like, that makes my heart break.
Pain is relevant and it's personal and we don't have to compare it.
Right. And she was like, you can, just because of what you're going through doesn't mean that their heart isn't still, like, you can have both. There is truth in both. And,
totally.
And so I've really had to lean into that because I felt guilty for a while that I just was like, I should be enjoying this because there's other women that won't ever get it. And she was like, no, you're allowed to be mad. Be mad about this. Like,
all the feelings.
You'll work through it and just keep working through it. And so that's kind of right for me. Like, that's where I'm at, is that we're just continuing to work through it. We're being aware of things. We're talking about it. And we're also just honoring the space.
Yeah. I love that. And I want to reflect back to you as a friend, also as a therapist. I agree 100%. We get to have our own journey and we get to have our own feelings. And the more that we can just feel our feelings as indicators and ride them rather than stuffing them or whatever, the more authentic our journey is going to be, the more opportunity it gives us to have these other feelings that come along too, right? Because if we're smushing the ones that are uncomfortable and only allowing for the good, are they coming? No. I mean, anyone who's done Inside Out knows they're all gaggled together. They're all there together. They are. And everybody needs a little bit of space to do their thing. It's my favorite thing about people when they're authentic and vulnerable is that the gift that we give is it's the most connecting. I'm sure women that are pregnant of all kinds will relate to just like, let me experience me the way that I'm experiencing it. It doesn't have to be like anybody else's. I just love that I love you. And you have, for those who are listening and not watching, you should watch, but you have purple hair streaks, which was my thing for
Yep,
years
still have
when I
it.
was younger. And anybody who knows me knows it's my favorite color. So like I love how you look. I love who you are as a person. I can't. I'm excited to see you as a mother, and my excitement has nothing to do with being a good mom or being like a whatever. It has to just be with you, how you're gonna be. My last question, and you've hit this, which is why I asked you to be here, I guess, many times on this podcast already. But I'm just gonna ask the big question. Leavitt, when I say the word belonging or the belonging place, what does that mean to you?
For me, it's finding the community. And sometimes that community is 500 people. Sometimes that community is 3 people. It's about finding that community. It's about finding people who accept you and love you and want you right where you are. You don't have to change. You don't have to adapt. You don't have to be bigger or smaller than you are. Who you are and where you show up is plenty. Yeah, enough. And I have been fortunate in my life that I am a part of many communities where I belong. And again, some of those communities are huge and some of them are very, very tiny.
Yeah. What do you feel like you do or they do? There's people that don't have that. They're kind of looking to do that. Is there anything that you would say contributes to that?
You have to do the hard work and you have to be willing to go look for it.
Amen. Right?
You have to
There's
go
no
find
easy
it.
answer for that.
Right. There is none. You have to be vulnerable. You have to put yourself out there. You have to do the thing.
I mean, you said in this podcast probably 3 times, when I encounter something new, I go to the community and I figure it out. I mean,
Yeah.
that was your words over and over and over.
Yeah.
I want to point that out, that like that is part of creating a belonging place, is you have to make efforts, right?
To belong. If you want to be, it's same old adage. If you want a friend, you have to be a good friend. Yeah. And so if you want to be in a community, you have to go find that community. It's not all that hard to do. Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, but it's not super hard.
Not as hard as people think it is, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And once you have an in, then you can start finding your ways because there's community within that community. And then you'll find your community within that.
Totally.
And so for me, you just have to go, okay, I want to do this, so let me go find it somehow.
You gave so many examples. You set a goal. That's one of the communities. Like, I want to learn how to ride. Like, okay, you're never gonna be a horse person or with horse people if you never like say, right? So sometimes you can just set a goal. Sometimes you are having an experience, whether you want it or not, and you're like, I don't know what this is, and you have to go dig in with people that know. Sometimes you are interested in a job or a career. I mean, you gave lots of examples of like why you would enter a new community. So I think there's people that just like don't have enough friends, right? It's like, okay,
where are you
like,
showing up then?
Yeah, rarely are you going to be like, let me go find a friend finder. Although there are things, Bumble has friend connections and stuff. But I do think it starts with, I kind of always talk about wells as like belonging places. Yeah. You can either be a creator of a well, or you can come to a well, or you can contribute to the well. And it doesn't really matter where some people in their lives, they're building the wells, right? Right. And some people are partaking and coming to the wells. I love that something that you've exemplified in your life, though, is it seemingly seems the joy of the community when you have stepped in and been curious and asked questions.
I also like adding to the well. Yeah. And I think that's also something really important, is that just because you're part of a place doesn't mean you get to just take. You also have to add into it.
And that synergistically gives you more, right? Relationship wise, gives you more like give and take. It also, I think, when you need to receive, because you've added, it's easier to do that in that part. Okay, well, where can people, we're going to put them in the liner notes, but where can people find you? Like, do you have a website or Instagram?
So you can find me on Leavitt to Leavitt on pretty much every platform. Okay. And then if you're interested in the service dog world, my service dog's handle is Service Dog Bear Cub.
Love that.
And you'll see some of our adventures. When I say Bear travels with me everywhere, he literally travels with me everywhere. He goes to every show with me. He's right there. But yeah, and then just leave it to Leavitt on just about every platform you can find.
Okay, we'll put all of her links below, and so you can see some of and some on your, I think at least on your Instagram, some of those photos you talked about are up on that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some of those world-renowned.
Yeah.
Famous, yeah.
Some of them are buried a little bit, but they're all there.
You can scroll down and see some of her work. You are phenomenal at what you do, but I asked you here because you are phenomenal as a person, and I love you, and I love your becoming. So thank you. Thank you for everything you had to say.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Love
for
you
sure.
too.